Buckle up, everyone, because this week in AI, well, it's been a wild ride. From big tech shakeups to mind-blowing new features, and even the government's getting involved. So many of you sent in articles, and we are diving deep to bring you the need-to-know info on what really matters in the world of AI.
Yeah, it's definitely been a week of headlines. And what's really fascinating to me is we see all these names popping up that you wouldn't normally think of as hardcore tech. Like Axios, the Associated Press, even Agence France Press, they're all jumping into the AI
Oh,
game.
yeah. You're talking about OpenAI partnering with Axios, and then you've got Google teaming up with the Associated Press, and Mistral AI, they're joining forces with Agence France Press. And it's all about feeding real-time news into their AI models. So it's almost like AI isn't just making the content anymore, it's becoming the delivery system too.
Exactly. And imagine what that means for you getting your news customized to your interests straight from like ChatGPT or Google's Gemini. It's a huge shift, and it really makes you think, how will this change the way we consume and understand the news?
I mean, will those traditional news outlets even survive if AI becomes the go-to source for real-time news?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And it's not just about the outlets themselves. It's about making sure that AI-generated news is accurate and impartial. Can we prevent bias from creeping in? How do we verify information when AI is churning out content at warp speed? These are some big challenges we're going to have to face.
And OpenAI, they haven't just been busy with partnerships. They've been making waves on multiple fronts. Take their ChatGPT, for example. It just got a major productivity boost with this new tasks feature. So say goodbye to your to-do list and hello to AI task management.
It's really interesting how we're seeing this transition from AI as a cool toy to AIs as a genuinely helpful tool integrated into our lives. This new tasks feature, it's not just a gimmick, it's a sign that AI is getting more practical and fitting into our daily routines.
Yeah, it's like AI is finally growing up and getting a real job. And speaking of serious business, OpenAI just brought Adebayo Ogunlesi onto their board of directors. He's a major figure in finance, so that seems like a strategic move with some pretty big ambitions behind it.
Absolutely. Bringing someone like Ogunlesi on board could be OpenAI's way of bridging the gap between Silicon Valley and the world of global finance. They're not content with just being a tech darling.
Yeah.
They're aiming to make a real impact on the global stage.
And they're not shying away from the regulatory side of things either. They put out a whole statement about their vision for responsible AI development, emphasizing transparency, accountability, international cooperation. Sounds good in theory, but is that enough to really address people's concerns?
Well, it's a step in the right direction for sure, but the big question is, how do those lofty ideals translate into action? How do you
Hmm.
actually enforce transparency? Who's holding these companies accountable? And how do you get different countries to agree on ethical guidelines for AI? Those are the details that need to be worked out.
And while OpenAI is talking self-regulation, the White House is stepping in with its own plans to shape the AI landscape. President Biden signed an executive order to ramp up data center construction in the U.S. You can't help but notice the connection to AI. Those data centers are the powerhouses behind all this development.
Oh, absolutely. The government definitely sees this as a strategic priority. They're making sure the U.S. has the infrastructure to support this tech revolution, basically laying the groundwork for a future where AI is a part of every aspect of our lives.
But here's where it gets interesting. On one hand, they're boosting data centers, which are the backbone of AI, but then they turn around and restrict exports of those super advanced chips, the ones used for AI, to certain countries. Citing national security concerns seems a bit contradictory, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does seem like a balancing act. On one hand, you want to encourage innovation and keep the U.S. in the lead when it comes to AI, but then there's national security and making sure this powerful technology doesn't fall into the wrong hands. It's a tough line to walk.
And you know who's not happy about those export restrictions? NVIDIA, the chip-making giant. They're arguing that these restrictions are going to stifle innovation and hurt American businesses.
Well, NVIDIA has a point. If U.S. companies can't get the most advanced chips, it could make it harder for them to compete globally. But the question remains, how do you balance national security with the need to encourage technological progress? It's complicated. There are no easy answers.
It's fascinating how this is all playing out on a global scale. Meanwhile, Microsoft, they're quietly making some big moves too, rolling out AI features to their business customers across the board. We're talking Microsoft 365 Azure. They're aiming to boost productivity and make those everyday workflows smoother.
It's a smart strategy, taking that cutting-edge AI and weaving it right into the tools businesses are already using. It's not some abstract concept. It's about making AI practical and accessible, so it actually impacts how people work.
Yeah, you're in your familiar Microsoft environment, and boom, you've got AI analyzing your emails, scheduling meetings, maybe even drafting documents. That's a game changer. It could really level the playing field for smaller businesses, give them the power of AI without having to build those complex systems from scratch.
It's almost like having a virtual team working behind the scenes, taking care of all those tedious tasks. And it's not just about efficiency either. Imagine how much better decision making could be when you have AI analyzing data and giving you insights that humans might miss.
Oh, and speaking of shaking things up, DeepSeek just launched their AI-powered search app on iOS. Remember them? They're trying to revolutionize how we search for information, using AI to give us more relevant, personalized
Yeah,
results.
they're taking on the big guys in the search world, and they're doing it by focusing on natural language processing. Instead of typing in keywords, you can just ask questions naturally, and the AI understands what you're really looking for.
It's like having a research assistant in your pocket.
Yeah.
But will people actually switch from their usual search engines? We are creatures of habit, after all.
It all comes down to the experience. If DeepSeek delivers on their promise of a more intuitive, efficient search, people will come around, especially on mobile, where convenience is king. If they can make search feel less like a chore and more like a conversation, that could be huge.
And while we're on the topic of revolutions, we can't forget about the explosion in AI video generation. Luma's Ray 2 turning text prompts into stunning videos that's just mind-blowing.
It's incredibly empowering. You don't need a film crew or expensive equipment to make high-quality videos anymore. Anyone with an idea and a computer can bring that idea to life visually.
It's like storytelling for everyone. Businesses, educators, artists, everyone can produce professional-looking video content. It could completely change how we share information and connect with each other.
And it's not just about creating videos. It's about new ways to be creative.
Yeah.
With AI handling the technical stuff, people can focus on the story they want to tell, the emotions they want to evoke. It opens up a whole new world of possibility.
It's enough to make your head spin. With all this happening so fast, how is anyone supposed to keep up?
It's a lot to take in, that's for sure. But the key is to stay curious. Don't be afraid to try these new tools. See how they can improve your work, your creativity, even your daily life.
Okay, stay curious, experiment. But what about the bigger picture? What's on the horizon for AI?
One thing's for certain, AI is not slowing down. It's already woven into our digital lives, and it's only going to get more influential.
That's exciting, but also a little scary. There's been a lot of talk about the potential downsides of AI, job displacement, algorithmic bias, even super intelligent machines taking over. Is this all hype, or are there real concerns we need to be addressing?
It's important to remember that with any powerful technology, there are always risks. We need to be thoughtful about how we develop and use AI, making sure it's used for good and benefits everyone.
That's a huge responsibility. Who's in charge of making sure that happens, governments, tech companies, or is it up to all of us?
Yeah, it feels like we're at this crossroads with AI, right? Like so much potential for good, but also these worries about what could go wrong. So how do we make sure AI is used responsibly? Is it about governments stepping in with rules or the industry policing itself, or do we all have a role to play?
That's the big question, isn't it? And there's so many different opinions out there. Some people are saying we need strict government oversight, like a rule book for AI. Others think too much regulation will stifle innovation, and they want the industry to handle it themselves.
So it's like this tug of war between control and freedom. Where do you stand on this whole debate?
I think it's not so much about picking sides, it's more about finding that middle ground. We need some safeguards to prevent things like algorithmic bias and people using AI for bad stuff. But we also don't want to crush the potential of this technology by over-regulating it. Right, like OpenAI, they've been talking a lot about responsible AI development, all of this transparency, accountability, international cooperation. But are those just nice words, or will it actually make a difference?
Well, it's a good start for sure. But the real question is, how do those principles actually play out in the real world? How do you make these complex AI systems transparent? Who holds companies accountable when things go wrong? And how do you get different countries with their own agendas and regulations to agree on a global set of ethical guidelines for AI? These are tough questions we need to be asking.
It sounds like this conversation is just getting started. So where do we fit in as individuals? What can we do to be more than just passive observers in this AI revolution?
It starts with awareness. Stay informed about what's happening in AI. Read articles, listen to podcasts, understand how it's already affecting your life. And don't be afraid to speak up. Share your concerns, your hopes, your ideas for the future of AI. Contact your elected officials, support organizations that are pushing for responsible AI development, get involved in conversations about the ethical implications.
So it's about staying informed, speaking up, and taking action. But let's switch gears for a second and talk about the other side of this. There's all this hype about AI solving the world's biggest problems. Is there any truth to that, or is it just wishful thinking?
There's definitely real potential there. Think about healthcare, climate change, education, poverty.
Hmm.
AI is already being used to develop new medicines and treatments, make energy consumption more efficient, personalize learning, and even predict and prevent humanitarian crises. The possibilities are incredible.
Yeah, it's exciting to think about the positive impact AI could have. But is it safe to rely so heavily on AI to solve these complex problems? What about those unintended consequences or biases creeping into the systems?
You're right, it's not a perfect solution.
Yeah.
We need to watch out for potential biases in the data used to train AI models. And human oversight is absolutely crucial. AI should be a tool to help us, not replace us completely.
Right, it's a collaboration, not a replacement. Humans and AI working together to build a better future.
Exactly. And that's what makes this such an amazing time to be alive. We're at the beginning of a new era, and we have a chance to shape it for the good of everyone. It's a responsibility we shouldn't take lightly.
Well, that's a great note to end on. Thanks for joining us on this journey through the world of AI. And to everyone listening, stay curious, keep exploring, and never stop asking questions. The future of AI is being written right now, and we all have a role to play.